The silent battlefield of desire and power. You find yourself standing at the edge of something unseen, a place where passion bleeds into power, where love is not innocence but a battlefield. Here, desire is a double-edged blade and every tender word hides a subtle war for control. Do you feel the tension tightening around your chest? That quiet pulse that warns you, this is no ordinary terrain. The arena is cloaked in shadows, where illusions of affection mask intentions sharp as daggers. What if everything you thought was love is merely the pretense for a game you never agreed to play? What if beneath the smiles and promises lurk behaviors that, unchecked, chip away at your spirit like acid eating through stone? These are not the battles of open conflict, they are wars fought in silence, where tolerance becomes a surrender and boundaries dissolve into smoke. The line you fail to draw today becomes the cage you find yourself trapped within tomorrow. Consider the nature of power itself. It is not granted, it is seized, guarded, defended. It thrives in clarity and dies in confusion. And yet, you have been taught to overlook subtle erosions, to excuse what cannot be excused. You have let passion's fire blind you to the slow corrosion beneath. But the Machiavellian truth waits cold, relentless to remind you that love without limits is weakness masquerading as virtue. This is the realm where unchecked behaviors become invisible, weapons wounding your core without leaving scars. B. Slight betrayals, the quiet manipulations, they accumulate, forming cracks in the foundation of your authority. What will you tolerate before your throne is no longer yours to claim? How many concessions will you make before power slips through your fingers like sand? Look inward now. Feel the silent war raging beneath your skin. This is not about anger, nor hatred, it is about recognition. Recognition of the battlefield you inhabit. Recognition that desire, untempered by strategy, becomes chaos. And chaos devours those who mistake love for surrender. Ask yourself, where does your sovereignty begin and where does it end? Which behaviors will you permit to take root, and which will you excise without mercy? You are no longer a passive actor in this play. You are the strategist, the ruler, the silent architect of your own destiny. The truth you must face is stark. Tolerance in this realm is not compassion, it is weakness. It invites invasion. It whispers permission to those who would conquer your mind, your heart, your very will. But power listens only to commands, not pleas. It responds to boundaries etched in stone, not lines drawn in sand. Out here, in this quiet battlefield of desire and power, you begin the war for yourself. Not with noise or fury, but with cold precision. You learn to see the invisible weapons, too. Name the silent offenses, to claim your domain with unyielding resolve. This moment, this breath, marks the end of illusions. You will no longer accept what diminishes you. You will no longer tolerate what betrays your essence. Because in the kingdom of the self, only one truth reigns supreme. That power is the only currency of love worth its price. You are awake now. The battlefield stretches before you, silent and vast. And the war has only just begun. The poison of deception, when truth becomes a lie, deception is not a simple misstep. It is a venom that seeps slowly, invisibly, poisoning the very foundation of trust you stand upon. You think you see the truth only to realize that what you embraced was a carefully crafted mask, designed to ensnare your perception and bend your reality. Do you feel that cold tightening inside? That gnawing doubt that whispers, something is not as it seems. Yet, you hesitate. You want to believe. You want to ignore the signs. But every moment you tolerate deception, you chip away at your own sovereignty. What is the cost of living behind a veil of falsehood? When you allow dishonesty to slip past your defenses, you surrender a fragment of yourself, your clarity, your power, your very essence. The masks you tolerate become prisons. They distort your vision, make you question your judgment, erode your confidence until you no longer trust your own instincts. How long before the lie becomes your new reality, and you lose sight of where truth ends and illusion begins? You must understand this. Power is born in clarity, forged in the harsh light of truth. It is not gentle. It does not coddle. It demands ruthless honesty first with yourself, then with those who orbit your world. The Machiavellian lesson here is brutal. Deception is the enemy of power. To tolerate falsehood is to invite chaos into your domain. It fractures the invisible contracts that bind relationships, replacing connection with suspicion, intimacy with distance. Pause and feel the weight of this. Every lie tolerated is a wound inflicted upon your mind's fortress, a crack in the armor that shields you from betrayal. You begin to ask yourself, who wears the mask? Who plays the part? And more terrifyingly, how many masks are there waiting to be discovered? Each revelation is a battle won or lost in the war for your soul. You must become a seeker of truth. Even when it burns, the path is not comfortable. It is jagged, raw, and isolating. But it is the only path that leads to genuine power. Clarity cuts away the fog of deception, exposing what must be confronted, what must be discarded. It teaches you to recognize the subtle signs, the hesitation in a glance, the slip of a word, the calculated pause that reveal when the truth is being weaponized against you. Ask yourself, are you willing to live in comfortable illusion or wield the cold sword of clarity? Are you prepared to face the discomfort of confrontation rather than the slow death of self-betrayal? When truth becomes a lie, the battlefield shifts, and only those who see clearly can claim victory. This is not about bitterness or cynicism, it is about survival. The survival of your spirit, your identity, your throne. Deception is a poison that works in silence, but your awareness is the antidote. Refuse to let lies settle in your kingdom. Strike swiftly when you detect the falsehood, unmask the hidden agendas, and restore the order that only truth can uphold. Because in the end, what you tolerate in deception, you internalize in weakness. And weakness is the seed from which all defeat grows. You are not a passive victim in this game. You are the master of your reality. The choice is yours. Let the poison spread or purge it with ruthless clarity. Feel the weight of this decision pressing down on you. Let it awaken a new kind of vigilance, a cold, calculating awareness that no lie will slip by unnoticed, no mask will fool your gaze. For your sovereignty depends on this. Your power demands it. The tyranny of entitlement. When respect is a bargain, respect is the silent currency exchanged in every interaction, a fragile, sacred force that defines your place in the world. Yet, what happens when respect is no longer earned but demanded? When it transforms from a gift into a transaction, you feel the weight of this shift deep within, a slow suffocation, as if the air itself has thickened. Entitlement does not ask politely. It takes, it commands, it expects. And in that expectation, your dignity begins to erode. Can you feel the invisible chains tightening? The subtle oppression of being around those who believe respect is their due, their right, their bargaining chip. They come with an unspoken ledger, tallying favors and grievances, handing out respect only when it suits their agenda. What do you become in this cruel economy? A debtor shackled by obligation, a prisoner to demands that have no foundation in truth or merit. There is a tyranny in entitlement, a silent dictatorship that robs you of your power, piece by piece. When you tolerate this, you surrender control over your own boundaries. You allow others to dictate the terms of your self-worth. Each concession, each excuse made for their demands is a brick in the prison of your own submission. How many times have you bent your spine, swallowed your pride, and pretended the burden was light? The weight grows heavier with every passing moment. This is the battleground where your inner warrior must rise. Not with violence, but with the cold steel of clarity and the unyielding armor of self-respect. To reclaim what is rightfully yours, you must refuse to engage in this toxic exchange. You must redraw the lines, reset the rules, and dismantle the illusion that respect can be bartered. Because real respect is never owed. It is only earned by actions, by truth, by honor. Ask yourself, who defines your value? Is it the entitled voices that seek to control your space, or is it the sovereign within you who refuses to bow? This battle is psychological, fought in silence and in moments of quiet resistance. It demands vigilance, a refusal to accept crumbs when a throne is yours by birthright. You will feel the pressure to conform, to accept the demands, to yield under the guise of keeping peace. But peace bought with surrender is a lie, an illusion masking the slow death of your dignity. Your boundaries are not suggestions, they are declarations. Each time you permit entitlement, you fracture the fortress of your identity. This is your call to arms, not a cry for conflict, but a whisper of defiance. Stand firm in your sovereignty. Recognize entitlement for what it is, a parasite feeding on your weakness. To tolerate it is to invite erosion, to invite decay. To reject it is to reclaim your power and restore balance in a world eager to tip. The scales against you. Feel the surge of strength rising from this truth. The battlefield is within, but so is the victory. Respect is not a currency others hold over you. It is the reflection of the respect you demand from yourself first. Build your fortress with this truth and let no entitlement breach your walls. You feel it before you see it. A subtle shift in the air, a pause too long, a gaze that lingers just enough to disarm you, followed by words wrapped in silk but hiding blades. This isn't affection. This is a strategy. And you're not loved, you're being studied, calculated, moved across a board you didn't know you were standing on. There's a game unfolding beneath your emotions, and you are the piece, not the player. Every reaction you give becomes a string tied to your mind. Every silence, every outburst, every vulnerable confession is fed into a machine that converts your sincerity into leverage. You call it connection, but deep down, it's control, crafted with precision, coded in false intimacy. And each time you excuse it, each time you minimize that gut instinct, you surrender the reins. Emotional manipulation is not loud. It is quiet like a needle sliding beneath the skin. It works through implication, suggestion, omission, never attack. It confuses until you begin to question your own motives, your own memories. You start apologizing for things you didn't do. You start explaining truths that should never need defending. How did you get here? When did your truth become negotiable? You see, the puppet master never pulls the strings directly. They let you hang yourself with them. They craft the illusion of choice while nudging you down the exact path they designed. They cry when you harden, rage when you resist, go cold when you demand clarity. Their emotions are weapons, loaded with guilt, with withdrawal, with counterfeit vulnerability. And if you're not vigilant, you begin to believe that their chaos is your fault. But it's not your fault. It's their design. The smile after, the argument, the tear after the insult, the compliment laced with control. These are not contradictions. They are techniques. You are not in a relationship. You are in a performance. One where your role is obedience and your punishment is withdrawal. Affection is granted like a currency, and the price is your power. Pause here. Let that sink in. How many times have you confused tension for passion, anxiety for love, confusion for depth? That wasn't intimacy. That was emotional warfare, and you were on the losing side. Because every time you allowed your emotions to be hijacked, you gave away the keys to your kingdom. You let someone else write your reality, mold your reactions, bend your truth. But here's the shift. The moment you name it, the illusion fractures. The charm loses its shine. The pattern reveals itself like smoke illuminated by light. You start seeing the script, the repetition, the way their validation arrives just when you begin to pull away, the way their silence becomes louder than words, the way your freedom becomes the threat they fear most. You are not here to be manipulated. You are not a character in their story. You are not the puppet. You are the sovereign. And when you see the game, you don't play it, you end it. Not with rage, not with chaos, but with cold silence and sharper boundaries. You don't owe them your reaction. You owe yourself your clarity. This is where power begins. In the refusal to dance for crumbs of affection. In the ability to walk away from the stage, from the script, from the invisible strings. Emotional manipulation only works when you need something from them. But when you become full on your own, when your validation comes from the mirror, not their mood, you become untouchable. So cut the strings. Burn the stage. Let the puppet master play alone and feel, for the first time, what freedom actually tastes like. There was a time when your hunger roared, when your ambition was sharp, untamed, merciless in its direction. You didn't need permission to want more. You didn't ask for approval to rise, but now something in you flickers. Something hesitates. Not because you've lost the fire, but because you allowed someone close enough to smother it. You thought compromise was maturity. You believed support meant bending. But power doesn't bend, it expands. And now you find yourself shrinking, dulling your edges, smiling at mediocrity, accepting the soft decay of your own potential because someone else convinced you that striving was selfish, that contentment was noble, that dreaming too loudly would break the peace. But what kind of peace demands your silence? You're not being loved, you're being sedated, drugged with comfort, lulled into a coma of routine where days blur and your drive rusts beneath the surface. This is not partnership. This is sabotage. And the most dangerous enemy is the one who makes you comfortable enough to stop moving. They won't say it directly. They'll wrap it in concern. You work too hard. You're always chasing something. Just be happy with what you have. But those words are not care. They are chains. Crafted with the velvet of affection, but forged with the iron of control. Because the moment you outgrow them, they lose you. So they chip away at your ambition. Not with blades, but with softness, with passive resistance, with silence when you win, with enthusiasm when you stall. And slowly, piece by piece, you begin to forget what it felt like to be unstoppable. You begin to settle. Not because you've become weak, but because you've been made numb. Ask yourself, who benefits from your complacency? Who smiles when you hesitate? Who relaxes when you underperform? If they only support the version of you that's small, tired, tame, then they were never on your side. They were standing in your way, pretending to hold your hand, and maybe the truth you've avoided is this: their comfort was always your cage. Ambition is not greed. It is your divine dissatisfaction with the ordinary. It is your refusal to die in the same place you were born. It is the echo inside you that screams, more, not for validation, not for applause, but because you are evolution in motion, and stopping would be spiritual suicide. But you've let someone convince you otherwise. You've tolerated laziness draped in love. You've made space for stagnation. You've mistaken fear for realism. You've lied to yourself, saying you're resting when you're really just hiding. You're not tired. You're tired of betraying your purpose. And you know it. There is a Machiavellian law buried deep beneath the surface here. Power is not granted. it is taken. And if you do not seize it, someone else will. If you do not dominate your environment, it will dominate you. The moment you tolerate complacency, you give away your throne. So you must choose. Will you continue living at half speed, applauded by people who are threatened by your full capacity? Or will you burn every illusion and rise alone, even if it means shedding the ones who once claimed to love you? Your future does not lie in safety. It lies in the tension between who you are and who you could be. And that tension is sacred. Anyone who urges you to relax into less is feeding off your decay. Anyone who cannot hold space for your greatness is not worthy of your proximity. You were not built for comfort. You were built for conquest. So reignite the fire. Rekindle your ambition like it's the last light in a collapsing world. Remember who you were before the compromises, before the guilt, before the softness took root. You don't owe anyone the dimming of your brilliance. Your destiny is watching, and it will not wait forever. You were taught to be kind, to soften when someone breaks, to lean in when they cry. You were told that compassion was holy, that to feel deeply was to live nobly. But no one warned you that your empathy could be weaponized against you, that your softness could be studied, mimicked, exploited. You thought your mercy made you human. But to the wrong eyes, it made you prey, because not every tear is truth, not every apology is change. Some wounds are performed, not endured. Some people bleed only to keep you bleeding with them. And you trying to be good become the audience to their theater. You become the rescuer, the redeemer, the forgiver, while they slowly dismantle your defenses with every desperate plea. You see it, don't you? The pattern, the guilt, the way they collapse just before accountability lands, how they become fragile when the mirror is raised. You reach for them, and in that moment you drop your sword. And that's the game, because power doesn't always demand obedience. Sometimes it seduces pity. It invites your sympathy, not your fear. It uses your compassion as camouflage. And while your heart bleeds for them, they remain untouched. Ask yourself, why do they only shatter when you pull away? Why do they weep only when you find your voice? Why does your strength summon their tears? Because your awakening threatens their script. You must understand compassion. Without boundaries is a liability. It blurs the line between loyalty and self-erasure, between love and manipulation, between who you are and who they need you to be in order to remain in control. You weren't born to be there. Emotional crutch. You weren't forged in fire just to carry the weight. They refused to lift. You weren't given a spine to bow every time. Someone plays the victim. This is the cold truth. Your mercy must be earned. It cannot be handed to those who weaponize their wounds. And yes, this will make you seem cruel. It will make them scream, heartless. But strength, real strength, is measured by how well you protect your internal kingdom. Even when the invaders wear familiar faces, you've been told that love is unconditional, that empathy should be infinite, that good people don't walk away. But who decided that? Who profits from your endless tolerance? Who survives while you drown in their chaos? You don't owe your ruin to anyone's healing. You don't need to be their therapist, their confessor, their emotional sponge. Your role is not to absorb their storms, but to master your own weather. So stand still and look at it clearly. See through the mist of sentiment. Watch how sympathy becomes strategy in the hands of those who have none. Witness how they twist their brokenness into a shield, deflecting your truth, delaying your rise, disguising their sabotage as struggle. You've carried them long enough. Now it's time to set them down, because if they truly needed help, they'd seek growth, not your surrender, not your silence, not your guilt. If they truly respected you, they wouldn't beg for forgiveness, they'd earn it. They wouldn't lean on your strength, they'd rise with their own. And if they truly loved you, they'd never make you choose between compassion and self-respect. Let that sink in. Your kindness is not the problem. Your lack of discipline is. Your mercy is not weakness until you give it to those who exploit it. Until you betray your instincts for the sake of harmony. Until you confuse being noble with being naive. From now on, your compassion must be strategic, reserved, sharp. It is a tool, not a leash. Let them call you cold. Let them paint you as distant. Better that than bleeding out for someone who mistakes. Your life bled for attention. You weren't built to be a martyr. You were born to be a sovereign. And in the kingdom of your mind, sympathy is no longer currency. Respect is. Boundaries are. Silence, when necessary, is. This is not the death of your heart. It's the birth of your reign. You've tolerated enough. The chaos, the noise, the subtle betrayals dressed as compromise. Every time you let it slide, a part of you eroded. Quietly. Not in screams, but in silence. Not in collapse, but in slow corrosion. Until now, because something inside you has changed. You no longer crave peace with those at war with themselves. You no longer bend just to keep what was never truly aligned. The cost has become too steep. The currency? Your time. Your energy. Your throne. And you've paid enough. You used to believe power was control over others, over outcomes, over perception. But you see it now, don't you? Real power isn't loud. It isn't desperate. It doesn't chase or beg or explain. It simply is. It stands in silence. And the world adjusts. This is the beginning of sovereignty. When your emotions no longer lead, but follow. When your boundaries are not warnings, they are laws. When you stop seeking validation and start enforcing consequence, you are no longer a reactor. You are a ruler. The war is no longer outside you. It's within. It's in your need to be understood. Your compulsion to explain. Your addiction to hope. All of it. Distractions. All of it. Chains. You don't need closure. You need clarity. You don't need apologies. You need distance. You don't need loyalty. You need alignment. Let them think you've changed. Let them call you distant, detached, cold. You know the truth. You've simply stopped dancing with dysfunction. You've stopped making space for what drains you. You've stopped tolerating in the name of love what only ever masked your own abandonment of self. And this is where the sovereign is. Born. Not in rage, not in rebellion, but in restraint. You walk away not to escape, but to ascend. You choose silence not to punish, but to protect. You enforce distance not to hurt, but to heal. Yourself. The sovereign understands. Not everything broken deserves to be mended. Not every battle deserves your sword. Some wars are won by simply not showing up. Some power moves are made by doing nothing at all. Let them wonder why you're unbothered. Let them feel the chill of your detachment. That is the echo of your evolution. You've grown past survival. Now you build. Brick by brick. Thought by thought. Action by deliberate action. No longer controlled by fear. No longer baited by chaos. No longer hijacked by emotion dressed as truth. You command yourself now. Your peace is your discipline. Your boundaries are your defense. Your silence is your crown. You do not chase what does not see. You do not water what does not grow. You do not bleed for what would not scar for you, because the sovereign knows. When you master yourself, the world loses its grip. No guilt, no apology, no explanation that you move different now. With precision, with purpose, with poise. Because you've reclaimed what they tried to make you forget. You are the storm they cannot predict, the silence they cannot decipher, the presence they can no longer shake. You walk the path alone, yes, but not lonely. Because solitude is not a void, it is a throne room. And now you sit upon it, not waiting, not hoping, not hurting, ruling, unshaken, unmoved, unapologetically sovereign.